Hi, everyone, and welcome to the As I Amber podcast. I'm Amber, and I love to talk about music, travel, society, and pop culture. On today's special episode, to honor Black History and Black Music Month, we will be discussing the legendary producer Quincy Jones with special guest Ms.Queen Rasheeda Ali, who is a radio personality in the Columbus, Georgia area. Hi.
Hi there, Amber. How are you doing today? And to your podcast listeners, hello, everybody.
Hi, thank you so much for joining me. Okay, so for those who may or may not know, Queen Rasheeda, or I call her Miss Rasheeda, is known in the Tri-City area for being on the radio for years. And this is in the Columbus, Georgia area, more specifically. She has years of knowledge and expertise in radio and R&B category of music. So she is a plethora of knowledge and wisdom here with us today, and I'm excited to have her.
Thank you for having me, Amber. Yes, it's been a lot of years in the radio. And you know what I've been saying lately, because people call me Queen Rasheeda. The secret is I'm probably called Queen Rasheeda because my pantyhose say so. So there you have that story. Now y'all take it and run with it.
Wow.
But thank you for having me and to talk about Quincy Jones during Black Music Month. Oh gosh, you couldn't have picked a better guy. So I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let's go. Okay, so for those who may or may not know, Quincy Jones is a Black producer. He has been in the symphony orchestra industry, the recording industry, the movie, television, you name it. His hand has been a part of for the past 65 years almost. He is 88 years young, and his daughter, Rasheeda Jones, who is also an actress on the show The Office, recently did a documentary on Netflix called Quincy, and I recommend everyone to watch it. It's highly educational, especially if you love music and you like the behind the music kind of genre, autobiography types of things, because it's amazing to see someone who is still living talk about their life and not anyone else. So I think the documentary was amazing. To start things off, Quincy Jones has written for Michael Jackson, Tamia, Tevin Campbell. He helped Will Smith launch his career. It's so many people that he has assisted, and I can't talk about Black Music Month without mentioning the legendary Quincy Jones. So, Ms. Rasheeda, what was your introduction to Mr. Quincy Jones?
Oh my gosh, it probably had to be back when he was doing more jazz music, because he's really stretched over a lot of genres of music. But I remember some of his jazz cuts, and then he actually crossed over into R&B and had a real hot R&B single that he did with James Ingram. I think it was 100 Ways or Yamo Be There. I'm not, right now my memory is kind of, got a lot of history stored, but his music, and then that goes back to the 70s when I first heard about Quincy Jones. I learned more about him once I saw the Ray Charles movie. I learned a little something about him when the Ray came out, and he was this young guy, I think he was a trumpet player.
Yes.
Multi-instrumentalist. And just learning that he was there with Ray Charles as a young guy, trying to get Ray to do certain things. But, back in those days, I mean, remember, he's 88 years old now. So just remember his young career put him back in the Jim Crow days. So as you may know, Quincy decided way back then that he wasn't coming south. And he tried to talk Ray Charles out of going into the southern part of the country to perform because of the way that the musicians were treated. But yeah, I got my first taste of Quincy. Oh, I can't call that song Rocket. It's just so much music in my head. But yeah, he goes back pretty far with me.
Yes, so it's going to sound funny, but my first introduction to Quincy Jones, because I'm only 30 years old, but I recall being little and my dad used to play this song by Tevin Campbell called Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes.
And I used to really like that song. And I used to listen to Tom Joyner in the mornings on my way to school with my dad. So that's kind of how I knew about that particular song, just having parents of a particular age who have introduced me to various genres of music.
Yeah.
And I used to like, tomorrow will be a better you, better me. I don't know all the words, but that's kind of the gist of the song. You all can YouTube it.
Yeah.
But that was my first introduction to like that older guy. He made that song for the younger generation at that
Mm-hmm.
particular point in
Mm-hmm.
time. And if you
Mm-hmm.
notice it for the millennial generation, Quincy Jones is the guy in the taxi cab in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme song.
Uh-huh.
He's the producer for it, but he was also driving the cab. So when
Okay.
Will's like, I whistled for a cab, and when it came near, that
Mhm.
Quincy Jones
That's
was
Quincy
sitting in the
Jones. Okay.
car driving. So if you're
Got
not familiar what he looks like, that's Quincy Jones, and a lot of his music you probably heard and didn't realize it. Um,
right.
he's been heavily sampled from artists such as The Far Side, Tupac, Ludacris. Just so many different people have dibbled and dabbled in the music that he has produced for television shows. He did the theme song for Sanford and Son. Dun,
Mm-hmm.
dun, 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 dun,
Mm-hmm.
dun, dun, dun,
Mm-hmm.
dun, dun, dun. He also did, for those who might remember, the 90s movie Austin Powers, Goldmember,
Mm-hmm.
Bossa Nova. I think that's the name of it. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a really popular song where they start dancing and it's really funny. But that's one of the songs that Quincy Jones has done. He has also produced "We Are the World," the
Yeah.
1980s song that was top on the charts of everywhere. Like he
Mm-hmm.
is the soundtrack to a lot of people's lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. One thing that stood out to me in the Quincy documentary on Netflix is that in the mid 70s, he had a brain aneurysm that he could have
Mm-hmm.
died from, but he survived it. He had brain surgery and he was still producing and writing music. And as you may or may not know, Miss Rasheeda and I, we have a common hobby where we like to play piano. So for those of
Mm-hmm.
you who have ever been in band, orchestra, chorus, reading music is universal. And like Miss Rasheeda was saying, Quincy Jones, his music and his career took off during the Jim Crow era. We didn't hear about a lot of Black composers and symphony orchestra conductors. In the 50s and 60s, Mr. Quincy Jones traveled overseas to Paris, France, and he learned how to compose music for symphony orchestras. And so when you know how to compose music for symphony orchestras, that kind of helps you do the score for a movie. You know, the people that add the action sounding music to the movies and the background and all that kind of stuff. He pioneered that. He was a trailblazer, and to be like one of the first Black men to be an A&R for a Mercury Records, I believe, and just
Mm-hmm.
various different things in the music industry is amazing.
Yeah. Hey, Amber, I would like to bring to your memory The Wiz. You remember The
Yeah.
Wiz, the remake of The Wizard of Oz? Well, Quincy Jones did the soundtrack for that. And he actually has a part in that that people may have caught and maybe not. But there is a scene where this guy's sitting at a piano,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't remember the song or what they were that scene, but he actually turns around to the camera to show his face, and it's Quincy.
Mm-hmm.
But to do the soundtrack for The Wiz, which is a remake of The Wizard of Oz, was an awesome production. And all of the music, Ease on Down the Road, and I love the Scarecrow's song. You remember when not the Scarecrow, the Tin Man.
Mm-hmm.
Tin Man in The Wiz had been sitting up a long time. He became real stiff.
Mm-hmm.
So the song that came out of that was a song called Slide Some Oil to Me. And it was and the actor Nipsey Russell was the one that did the dance and the song. But so many songs came out of The Wiz, And the soundtrack was just one of the most wonderful things that I have ever seen by him. Um,
Yes.
just thought I'd look. Yeah.
That is that is crazy that he still is relevant, because I say it all the time. I don't think Will Smith, the actor slash rapper that we know now, would be who he is without Mr. Quincy Jones. And I
Hmm.
say that because I was watching on HBO Max the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion,
Hmm.
and Will Smith said he had never acted a day in his life. He was at a party with Quincy Jones because, you know, his music career was taking off, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince in that era. And they were
Hmm.
at a party. And Mr. Quincy Jones told him, "You're going to audition right now in front of all these people." Like, moved the couch out of the way and just told him, "Yeah, audition right now." And he was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, in front of all these people? I've never acted a day in my life." And Will goes on to explain a little bit more. But after that one party he went to with Mr. Quincy Jones, he was on set recording for a national television show less than 2 weeks later. And I think that was one of those divine moments of being in the right place at the right time, because that show launched so many different
Hmm.
careers, whether it was Tatiana Ali, whether it was Janet Hubert, whether it
Hmm.
was Alfonso Ribeiro, Karen Parsons, so many different people. And all because Quincy Jones created a show. And we have to remember, let's go back, this was before
Hmm.
all the different shows like Blackish, or, you know, all
Oh,
the
yeah.
different sitcoms. It wasn't a lot of Black representation for wealth on television.
Mhm.
Besides the Cosby
Right.
Show, it was not a lot of representation, and I think that the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air combined the inner city kid like Will, who came from Philly to come to Bel Air to live with his aunt and uncle for a better opportunity in life. It opened people's eyes that, wow, there are Black people who can be judges and professors and teachers and live in luxury and go to private school and live a life of balance. And I think that was needed on television at that time, and sometimes still today.
Yeah. Well, you did mention earlier that even before Will Smith, he had done the theme song for Sanford and Son,
Yes.
and that goes back, and that music bed, that music that is in that Sanford and Son is still being played today because reruns are being done. Will Smith, I finally learned all the words to his little song that plays before the show actually comes on.
Theme
Is
song. Hmm.
and that's how you know a hit song. If you hear it and you like it and it works and you feel that it'll work timelessly,
Hmm.
here we are still singing. Oh, here's a little story. However, that story
Yeah.
goes with Will Smith and the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But we can also hum the music to the Sanford and Son theme song and others that are just sticking with the people throughout the years.
Yes,
So
and
he's a legend.
he is, and he recognizes talent and isn't afraid to like hone talent, and he likes to be around younger people. In the Netflix documentary, I don't know if you know the duo Chloe and Halle. They were signed by Beyonce's Parkwood Entertainment Records, and he was just in awe of them. And just to have Quincy Jones say, "You got it," to be co-signed by him, and you're not even 25 years old, that is honoring, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
Well, I don't know.
mhm.
We may hit on it a little bit later, but I'd like to definitely talk about where he was born, where he was raised, and the things that he did in his early years.
Yeah, you
Um,
can discuss that.
yeah, well, he's from Bremerton, Washington. And Bremerton, as you know, is really way out away from the state of Washington, basically. It's out in the middle of nowhere. But he was born there, he was raised there. He actually studied trumpet there and worked locally before he became the piano and singer with Ray Charles. He was like a kid And I remember from the scene in the Ray Charles movie, he was trying to get in the club as as a as a young guy trying to get in the club, right?
Hmm.
Well, when he got in the club, of course, he went on to do other things. He became a tourer. He was touring with Lionel Hampton as a trumpet player. He was became a prolific freelance arranger, working with Clifford Brown and some other folk. There's a lot of things that happened with him and great artists like Count Basie and Cannonball Adderley, Diana Washington and Dizzy Gillespie. And all of this was before 1956. And
Wow.
so as time went on, he decided that he would go and work in Paris, France, and moved his career in that way. I mean, it goes on if you go through the 60s and the 70s, and here we are now in 2021, and he's still doing it. He's still doing things.
Yes, and one of the songs that he did was Fly Me to the Moon with Frank Sinatra. And to be a Black man
Mm,
breaking barriers during that time was just unheard of.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's it's
Mhm.
in one session talking about Quincy, it would take a few. But it's such an honor to talk about him during this Black Music Month. And speaking on that, let's just say that back in 1979, President Jimmy Carter made this month, June, a month to honor the Black singers, the Black songs, the writers, the arrangers. And it started out as Black Music Month, but as we move forward into the time where we are today, you'll have some people call it African American Music Month. But with me, because I'm old school, it's going to always be Black Music Month. And I thank President Carter for doing that because we didn't really have a way to salute our artists or our songs. So if we take the month of June and do that every year and
Mhm.
teach a little bit about the artists, Quincy has won so many Grammys for the music that he's put out there. This is an honor to even talk about him. So I want to thank you for doing that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for joining me. And speaking of awards, if you he has so many. I don't even know where he keeps all his awards. You have to watch the documentary on Netflix, you all.
Mhm,
But if you don't
mhm.
have Netflix, I recommend you watching YouTube or Google or just look up different playlists that have Quincy Jones's music because he helped produce Michael Jackson's Thriller, like the number one album
Oh,
in the country,
yeah.
like the world, like it's still making charts 30 something years later. And he was also very influential in the start of the career of Tamia. He wrote You
Mhm.
Put a Move on My Heart, and I think that song put Tamia on the map. And also, what other songs? He did God Is Trying to Tell You Something from the movie The Color Purple. He was
Okay.
very influential in that, the songwriting and the producing of that film. He has so many credits. We could be go on and on and on. And I
On
think
and
he
on
has
and on.
about 6 daughters and 1 son.
Yeah, yeah.
And he just seems like he would be a very interesting person just to hang out with, just to be in his presence. And I don't know, have you ever met Quincy Jones before?
That that's one artist that I did not get to meet, and I wish I had. It's never too late as long as
It's
he's
never
alive.
too
There's
late.
a possibility. But I do want to say to your listening audience that he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum in 2013.
Mhm.
He received the Kennedy Center honors back in 2001. He also won Grammy Awards from 1990. Well, let's start back in 1981,
Uh-huh.
83, 84, 85, 1990, and 93, and even more awards than that. So when you get to where he is with his music, And when you know, like you mentioned, we play at the piano. When we talk about someone like Quincy, it's a piano, right? 88 keys, maybe if you're talking about a furniture piece. There are only 8 notes in between from what, A to G, and the black and white keys. But the way this man is all over that piano and the music that he has in his head and the things that he can do to produce. You know what stands out about Quincy, if you really talk to musicians that do know him? He had a sign, so they said, on the door that said, "Leave all attitudes right here." This is before you walk in the studio. So to have that kind of authority to say, don't bring any attitudes up in here. We're about doing the music and making it beautiful and making people happy and putting something out there that's going to be out there for a while. And that's what he did. That's what he did. You can take any old song that he's done. We Are the World is very old, but I love trying to slip it in on radio right now because it's not a song that you would hear on the radio right now. And it just needs, I would say, let's play it as a classic oldie one day, just so people can know who did it. You gave me an idea when you decided to do the Quincy Jones interview. So I know now, before the month is out, I'm going to be playing We Are the World. So I can't wait. I just can't wait. Oh, and you know another song, Amber? Remember The Heat of the Night? The Heat of the Night?
That the old show from the 80s, yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
He did that song as well. So it's just so many. You can't do them all. You can't talk about them all. They just kind of pop up in your head and you'll remember, oh, Quincy Jones did. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, his middle name is Delight.
Wow.
Delight, and he's a junior. Quincy Delight Jones
Jr. Wow.
Yes.
That's a pleasant middle name to have, you know, and it kind of is like a foreshadowing of his life. Has been ups and downs, but a delight, you know, to the music industry. One thing that I wanted to mention, because I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s reading Vibe magazine. And Quincy Jones founded Vibe magazine in 1993. I think it was sold in like 2006, 2007, because, you know, the way journalism has changed, everything has gone online. But Vibe magazine was major for so many Black artists in the 90s. The covers of Vibe, I remember like going to the, what was it called? FYE music store or Radio Shack or different stores in the mall at the time where you could listen to an album before you buy it, before iTunes, when you had to buy the CD. There was the Vibe magazine and the cover, the infamous cover with TLC in firefighter uniforms when the artist Left Eye, rest her soul, was, you know, she burned her boyfriend's house down, Lord Jesus. And she was on the cover of Vibe. And just that magazine, they said that particular issue sold out in minutes. Like they had to restock everything because it was just so popular and groundbreaking. It was like Rolling Stone for Black people, if you would give it any kind of equivalent. But I thought Vibe magazine was the coolest thing. And when I was little and sit under the dryer, I would try to read the articles in there. And there's one particular journalist, Danielle Smith. I don't know if she's still writing anymore, but her articles used to be pretty cool. She would interview just various up and coming talents. And I just remember the Vibe magazine always had cool pictures. This is before Instagram. It was our Instagram at that time. So, and I can't mention Vibe without mentioning Mr. Quincy Jones, who started it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else about Mr. Jones in Black Music Month?
Oh, let's see. Oh, if you just want to know, he went to college Let's see, in the early 50s, Quincy Jones studied briefly at Schillinger House, now Berklee College of Music in Boston.
Awesome.
And he did that before leaving to go on tour with the late Lionel Hampton. Then he was the trumpet player and the arranger. Um, Gosh, it's so much. There are questions on the internet about him. Definitely look him up. If we're leaving out things, just put his name in the search engine and you will learn so much about this man who is 88 years old now, born on March 14th back in 1933. All of his awards. He's called Quincy or Q. You know, when you don't, in the music industry, you get a little hip. So you take the letter, you're Q. So he's Q to the musicians, the Quincy probably to closer friends. And he's a dad, you know, and probably a granddad,
Oh yeah.
having gone through quite a bit, being very ill. In the documentary, he talked about the drinking, you
Mhm.
know, which I think he had to straighten up and leave that alone. And we're so glad because we still need him to be around.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful that he is.
Yes. Well, this has been a great conversation. Music history for us little music nerds or whatnot. um, like I said before, I think that the documentary is a must watch. Even if you don't even think you'll be interested, just the other things you'll learn from his life to the
Yeah.
movies to the barriers he broke is just interesting. And I think the documentary might be rated PG-13. It wasn't anything
Mhm.
vulgar in it, but it might be a few cuss words or whatnot. But I think your middle school students or high school students haven't heard any, it's nothing they haven't heard before. So I think it's an
Absolutely.
educational tool as well. It's entertainment.
Yeah, I do too, Amber. Throughout his years, he worked with a who's who of figures from all fields of popular music, nominated for over 75 Grammy Awards, winning more than 25 of them, seven Academy Awards. I mean, this is big, 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 big stuff. I mean, you can be in the music industry, starting on the level where Amber and I are, just sitting down, tinkering with the piano, to becoming a musical legend and an icon for all of the young people to come to learn about and read about. So let's not ever forget him. He's a living legend, and it's just good to be able to sit and talk about him.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Rasheeda, for joining me on the As I Amber podcast. It has been a joy to listen to you. Where can my listeners listen to you?
Well, you know what I tell people now? I am internationally known. I'm locally on 95.3. We're called 95.3 Smooth R&B on the FM dial. I'm on from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. Monday through Fridays. But if you're out in California watching As I Am Amber, As I Amber,
Yes.
how is that? As I Amber?
Yes, ma'am.
If you're listening and watching to Amber and you are in California or Tokyo, Japan, you can actually key in 953 smooth RNB, that's the letter N.com, and catch me around the world in the
Awesome.
in your time zone. Just remember, I'm on 10 until 3 in the Eastern time zone. So I have my family in California that listens, in New York. I have a Shreveport, Louisiana niece, so that's a different time zone. I have family in Texas and up in North Carolina. So just remember 95.3 smoothrnb.com.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rashida. And as you all know, you can follow me as I Amber on the social media handles of Twitter as well as Instagram. Please like and leave a review or a comment on the iTunes platform as well as any other platform that you may listen to the As I Amber show. Thank you so much, and you all take care. Bye.